Hello, everyone, and welcome to Winenance Wednesday. This is our weekly live stream show and podcast where we talk about all the ways we can transform our lives through our finances. And we do that by learning how to spend more intentionally, grow wealth more intentionally, and of course, live more intentionally. We are your hosts and personal finance educators, Stephanie and Marie. We are also the sisters of financial independence. And thank you so much for joining us again this week. We have a really great show for you. Before we get started, I wanted to give everybody a reminder that we have a workshop coming up. So if you were on the show last week, or if you listened to the show last week, you heard our announcement that we are doing our first Winenance workshop. It's a virtual workshop on Thursday, October 27th at 7 p.m. And it is all about building wealth through your 401k. Stephanie and I feel so strongly and passionately that your 401k is one of the greatest wealth building tools that you have at your disposal, but not enough people are using it the right way and don't know how to take advantage of it. So we are going to walk you through how to take advantage of it and how to build wealth through your 401k. So definitely go check that out. You can go to winancefi.com/workshops with an S to learn more about that.
Yes, definitely. I'm so excited for that. So it's our first workshop and we hope to see you all there. And another fun thing that we do at Winenance, of course, is our drink of the week. That's how we always like to start off our show, you know, a little bit something fun to do. So who is watching and what are you drinking today? I know for us, cheers.
Cheers.
This week, our drink of the week is another super simple recipe, one of our personal favorites, and I know definitely one of my husband's favorites and his go-to come this time of year. Yeah. It is a whiskey cider, and it's super simple to make. There's a few different variations of the recipe. This is one that I know Marie likes, and all it is 1 shot of Fireball whiskey, 1 cup of fresh apple cider, or, you know, refrigerated apple cider. It doesn't matter how fresh. Fresh is always better, though. A splash of ginger ale, and all you do is fill up a glass with ice, pour in the Fireball, pour in the apple cider, add a splash of ginger, stir, and you are done. Done. It is literally like fall in a glass. It is one of my favorite things this time of year.
It is very delicious. I love it. I actually use sparkling cider. So you kind of cut down on ingredients. So it's just whiskey and sparkling cider. So there you go.
Yeah. And if you want to, you know, knock it up a bit, you can put a little Jameson in there. You want to boost it up a little. If you want to level up your beverage.
Yes. Speaking of level up.
I know. Speaking of level up. So if you have been joining this season for Winenance, then you know that we have a weekly challenge. And so last week's weekly challenge was to increase your 401k to at least your employer match. If you're already contributing to at least your employer match, then it was to increase to, you know, 4%, 5%, whatever bit you can, or even better, to max it out. And so definitely we want to know if you guys were able to participate in the challenge of the week and how much you were able to increase it to. I know for me, when I started contributing to my 401k, I think I started at literally 1%. I was like, that's all I can do. And then little by little, you know, I increased it a little bit more. And then I did, when my employer finally started matching, I definitely made sure I got at least to the match. And then just a few years ago, I finally broke down. I did the math for both my, you know, my 401k and my husband's 401k. And I said, you know what? If we like buckle down, we can really max out our 401ks. I didn't even think that was possible for us, but it absolutely was. And we have been so much better for it. Our net worth has, you know, exploded over the past few years because of that, in addition to a few other things as well. But that has definitely been such a boost to our net worth and to our growing wealth. So, you know, hopefully everyone was able to participate in that and be able to see some of the benefits of it over the next few weeks, months, and years.
Steph, do you feel like that your lifestyle was compromised in any way by increasing and maxing out your 401k?
No, definitely not. And that was kind of the thing where I was like, okay, you know, we're not going to be able to eat out as much, and we're not going to be able to do certain things and go on certain vacations or whatever. But really, like, our life has basically been the same. Our son was going to daycare at the time. We still paid for daycare. We wanted to go on a vacation. We went on vacations, and it was the same vacation we went on before we were maxing out, So, and if anything, it was probably more expensive because, things getting more expensive year after year. So really, we didn't really eat out a ton at that point either. And the past few years, we've really been conscious about that in our spending, being more intentional about how we spend our money. And so it was just easy to try to focus on where we were putting our money rather than just spending however we wanted. So now that we were living more intentionally and spending more intentionally, it really wasn't a sacrifice in any way. Like, I almost can't think of anything that we gave up or sacrificed in effort to max out our 401k. I mean, and you've been maxing out yours longer than even I have. I mean, has there been anything that you've had to give up or sacrifice in the name of 401k or retirement savings?
I really don't feel like there is. We still take vacations. We still eat out, not all the time. We definitely cut back on eating out, but we're more intentional when we go out to eat. Before COVID and quarantine, we would be strategic and pick a restaurant that we actually wanted to try as opposed to spending money on takeout. And of course, we have those nights where, I just have to have Chick-fil-A or, I don't feel like cooking. But no, I definitely don't feel like our lifestyle has been compromised at all since maxing out our 401ks. And now it's just such a normal part of our lives. Like, even if I were to ever take a pay decrease, I would still make sure I could always max out my 401k because that's a life goal of mine. That's a priority. That's a higher priority to me than spending money on trivial things that really didn't bring a lot of value to my life in the first place.
Definitely. I agree with that. Again, it just becomes what's your priorities and where do you really want to focus your life energy and your money and everything. So
that's right.
That actually kind of leads into this week's topic.
That's right. So this week's topic is about living intentionally through financial independence. And we thought we would actually kick it off by defining what financial independence is, especially if we have any viewers here who might be new to Winenance or just new to the concept of financial independence. So financial independence, or FI as it's known, is a movement. It's a financial movement. And basically it is the status of having saved enough money that you can pay for your life expenses for the rest of your life. And this is generally done, pay for your life expenses, by the way, without actually having to work. So once you reach a certain number, you've reached your FI number, you no longer have to work. You can choose to work. And when you have that opportunity to choose to work, it opens up a lot of different options to you. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. But there is one thing to know about FI, and we will do an episode about growing wealth and investing for financial independence and sort of the math behind it. But there's one formula that is generally accepted within the financial independence, and that's 25 times your annual expenses. So the concept is that if you can save 25 times your annual expenses, then you will be able to withdraw around 3 or 4% from your portfolio every single year until you are no longer. And generally that formula factors in that you will not outlive your portfolio, your investments as well. So as I mentioned, we will definitely talk more about the formula and the math behind financial independence. But tonight we want to talk more about what FI is and isn't.
Yes, definitely. And I think the good thing to start with is what it isn't, because I think a lot of people will hear stories of other people who have achieved financial independence or even financial independence, retire early. And tonight we're more specifically talking about the FI part, that financial independence part, because they really are two separate things. And so financial independence and aiming for it, trying to achieve it, and then actually achieving it, it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not some magic bullet that's going to make you rich overnight. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes knowledge and learning. And without learning at least the very basics of it, if not, even more, and educating yourself on ways to invest, intelligent, thoughtful ways to invest, and where your money is going, and what these different types of accounts are where your money is being invested. without having that knowledge, there's really no way to achieve it. I mean, certainly you can go out and win the lottery, and that's the way to achieve it in one capacity. But we're talking about through investing, financial independence through investing. So it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not a lottery ticket, and it's not some way to just throw your money into some magic bucket that's going to make it multiply by $1 million. It's also not MLM or a multi-level marketing. So, if people are trying to convince you that you need to spend money to buy their thing and then sell these products and whatever, no, definitely not. I mean, financial independence, the whole beauty of it is that it's based on rules that currently exist for everyone, whether you live in the United States or the United Kingdom or wherever else in the world. Every country has their own investment and retirement planning rules for their own different types of accounts. Now, Maria and I certainly are more familiar with the US accounts and rules and investment options, but a lot of them are similar across different country and borders. And so the point again is that, there's all these basic rules, and the way to achieve financial independence is learning about these rules and how to use them to your advantage, not by trying to sell some product and get all your friends to buy the product from you and then having your friends sell for you and you earn a commission off of that. Getting through that whole pyramid scheme, MLM scheme, that's definitely not what it is either. Again, it's not a get rich quick scheme, and it's not a way to just try to, mess over other people as well. It's the legitimate way to earn money and invest your money and build and grow wealth. And then the last thing too is that if you haven't achieved financial independence by the end of your goal, that's okay. Again, it's something to reach for. And I said this on the first episode of this season, that if you have a goal to, save and invest $1 million and you only get halfway there, you still have $500,000. That's the beauty of financial independence, is that no matter what you set your quote FI number to, whether that's 500,000 or $1 million or 2 million, if you get any portion of that, you have already succeeded. You've already won, and you're far better off than you would have been otherwise. And again, mostly because you're going to take the time to learn, how do I invest my money? Where is my money going? What type of accounts am I putting my money in? These are the things that no one can take away from you. It's kind of like teaching a man to fish. You can teach a man to fish, or you can give a man a fish. And the goal of Winenance and talking about this and the concepts of financial independence is to teach you how to fish. That's exactly what we did. We could have easily called up a financial planner and said, okay, here's my bucket of money, make me more. And they would be glad to take a good chunk of that bucket out and charge us for it. And then we may or may not make money. I have no idea. And I'd be one of those people where people would say, well, where's your money invested in? I go, oh,
I have no idea.
But instead, I can tell you exactly. I can tell you exactly where every dollar is. I can tell you all my different account types and, generally what percentage is going to what. And I can speak intelligently about it and feel confident about where I'm investing my money. And so that's really what financial independence is. It's a path to spend and invest your money intentionally. So I've talked a lot of this about where you're investing your money and building wealth, but it's not just about putting your money into some kind of investment account or your retirement account either. The flip side of that is spending intentionally and living intentionally. And so financial independence is about figuring out the life that you want to live and determining the path to get there. Now, that life is probably going to cost money. So that's why we talk about investing a lot. But it's also, well, what are the things that are really important to you that you want to do? And how is the money that you're going to invest and save going to help you achieve those actions and those goals? And that's what financial independence is, allowing you to live the life that you want, to live the life that you deserve, and use your money intentionally on those things, not on all the other things that you could kind of care less about or that are important to other people who may or may not be around you, and that you kind of just don't have an opinion on or don't even care about at all. You spend your money on the things that you do care about and the things that you find value in.
Yeah. We've talked about coasting before, and that's not to be confused with Coast FI, which is something totally different. But this concept of coasting, which is what honestly a lot of people are doing. You get a job, you get a career, you start adulting, right? And then you build this lifestyle, and you end up spending without intention. You're just sort of spending arbitrarily. You're spending spontaneously on things that like you didn't even know you wanted or needed, but you see the shiny thing and you're like, oh, I want that. Or, somebody else is doing that. And that sounds like a cool thing. And certainly there is value in some of those more spontaneous purchases and things. And, we would never want to tell anyone to steal the joy of life, but that's actually not what FI is at all. It's actually about creating more joy and more happiness in life. And instead of coasting through your finances and coasting through your spending, you're choosing intentionally buying this or spending money on this, or not buying this and not spending money on this directly contributes to a goal of mine. And this is going to make me happier. And I can tell you exactly which area of my life it's going to make me happier and feel more fulfilled with.
Definitely, I agree. And that was kind of the thing for me when I started to spend more intentionally. You still kind of get those pangs inside where you see something that someone has, or they're doing something that you're like, oh man, I'd love to be there. I'd love to be doing that.
Shopaholic here.
Exactly. And that part's not going to go away. But then also there's that voice inside that says, yeah, but do you really care about that? Okay, prime example, quick side story. So I used to love Home Goods, and I still do love Home Goods. Like I love going through there, even if I have nothing, which let's face it, most of the time you go through Home Goods, you have no intention of buying anything. And then you end up like with $200 worth of Home Goods. But anyway, I used to go through there and I would just be like, oh, I want this and I want that and I want that. I wanted everything. I thought everything was so cute, and everything is so cute. But when I started spending more intentionally and living more intentionally, I started going through there. And I remember there was one time I went through there and I was just thinking to myself, I actually was going there intentionally for something. I needed like whatever it was, I needed the thing. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go here, but I know I just need to get this one thing. Don't go spend a ton of money. And I went through and I was like, yeah, this is really cute, but this is not worth this. And this is really cute, but I don't want to spend that money. Like just the desire slowly started to leave. And that's the thing, is that over time, that little voice in your head that's saying it's not really worth it gets louder and louder. Yes. And those little pangs inside of you that make you want that thing get smaller and smaller. Yeah. And so that's kind of the benefit of it. And so now, definitely, like I said, there's things I see and I'm like, oh man, that would be so nice to have. But there's other things that are more important to you. And those are the things that really start to take priority in your mind and priority in your life.
Yeah, we are going to do an episode about spending intentionally and talk more about this topic in more detail. But something you said kind of triggered something for me, is that when you are challenging yourself to go through a store where you're going for one thing and you are avoiding, spending money on things that you don't need, you're basically flexing a muscle, right? You're using a muscle that you weren't using before. And the more that you strengthen that muscle, the more successful you'll be, right? It's just like going to the gym.
Definitely. So I know in terms of living intentionally, we have kind of 4 topics that we think are really critical to understanding what that means and understanding how that applies to achieving financial independence. Yes. So our 4 reasons on why you should pursue financial independence, and just to summarize real quick, and we'll go through all of these, is financial and health security, freedom, which equals choice in how you choose to live your life, time ownership, and building generational wealth. And we find all of these things to be extremely important in terms of what they mean to you, what they mean to achieving financial independence. And particularly for me, the first one is probably the crux for me. And that's in, your security level. And I'll say that, I think we talked about this before, where I said, security is my insecurity. Like, just the way that we grew up and everything, like to me, stability is number one, and giving my family a stable and secure life is the most important thing to me. Making sure that we always have a roof over our head and my son always has a place to come home and call home, and, making sure that I'm going to be able to pay my bills and not have to worry about collectors knocking down the door and repossessing things or whatever. Like, I want to make sure that my life is as stable as possible for my family, because I think that's the healthiest thing for my family, as well as for health. I mean, that's the thing, is that we talk about financial security, but also taking care of yourself and your health and your body is extremely important. But, we all get old at some point and our bodies age. And unfortunately, healthcare is ridiculously expensive in this country. And so, as you get older, things aren't going to get cheaper. And so you have to account for that. And the best way to do is to try to plan as early as possible. If you set yourself up to hopefully reach financial independence, but again, even getting halfway there could help you in your later years. Medicare only covers but so much. A lot of people still have to cover, there's a whole concept of the donut hole in Medicare where they'll cover up to a certain point, and there's like kind of this period where you're expected to cover a good portion of it, and then they'll cover once you've reached beyond a certain point. And so you can't even rely 100% on Medicare. There's a lot of expenses that come just as you age. So that's the important thing to think about as well. And a lot of people will think that, oh, well, I have kids, and that's what I had kids for, to pay for mom and dad and to take care of mom and dad as they age. And Marie and I, we could both say that yes, that's definitely something that, of course, hopefully, if you have a good relationship with your children, that's something that you could do, and they would be glad to help you if they needed to, and if you needed to. But you don't want to put that burden on them. That's the last thing that I would want for my child, is to leave everything on him and have to have him pay for me and my husband's healthcare and means and everything as we get older. I want to do everything possible to be able to care for ourselves so that I can leave, and this is kind of the last point that we'll get to, generational wealth for my son. I can leave something for him when the inevitable day comes, hopefully very, very long from now.
Yes.
But that's the thing, is you kind of have to think about the future and think beyond the now, and understanding the concepts of financial independence and then trying to achieve them will help you think beyond today and help you even think about next year. You're thinking, tens of years ahead, decades ahead. And that's really the key of that portion of trying to achieve financial independence.
Yeah. I think if anything that we all learn from COVID and coronavirus is that there are no certainties when it comes to your job and your health, that your job can be taken away at a moment's notice. I mean, so many industries are floundering right now. They had no idea that they would be impacted by coronavirus. I was reading an article today about the cruise ship industry and how they're literally deconstructing cruise ships, and just they're taking it's actually kind of like, when you see the photos, it's very weird.
Yeah.
But so many unexpected industries have lost jobs, have had to lay off people, and nobody anticipated this going into 2020, right? And the same thing with your health. Anybody can be impacted by coronavirus, as we have seen time and time again. Anybody can be impacted by this. And yes, hopefully this is a once in a millennia, or once in a century, type of deal with this pandemic. But but we did not know it was going to happen in our lifetime. And so having money, having financial independence, sitting on that nest egg, if you will, gives you options when the unexpected happens, when you don't know where your paycheck is going to come from, when you are physically unable to work. You need to be able to know that you can still pay for your life. Unfortunately, we don't have the social safety nets in this country that other countries have, that other more developed nations have. And so it really is kind of incumbent on us. And so it is okay for me to make a sacrifice on Chick-fil-A if it means that, should I ever lose my job, I've got that security, and that I am saving my mental health from having stress and worry and have anxiety over how I'm going to pay for my life so the unexpected happen.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that was important to me when I decided to go on this path was, so I think you're familiar with Vicki Robin, and those who aren't, Vicki Robin is an author who wrote Your Money or Your Life, and that came out probably almost 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
It's been a while, and I think we released it a year or so ago. But it's a fantastic book, to which I've never read. But I've heard like everything about it. I've read, I've read articles about her. I've listened to interviews with her. She's basically talked about the book in detail in a number of presentations and things. And so I practically have read the book. I definitely get the concept of it. And when she talks about life force, that's why I kind of mentioned it earlier, it's basically saying that you exchange your time and your life for money. And if you put it that way, it's basically saying for every dollar that you spend, that is time that you will never get back. But that time might be worth it. So, yes, you might go on an expensive vacation with your family, but the time with your family is so important that it's worth spending that amount of money. Whereas if you're going out, to the bars every, night or every weekend and spending hundreds of dollars and it's just floating out into the ether, you don't really know where your money's going, which yes, I've been there before, then
We all have.
that's your life force though. That's time you will never get back that, what are you going to do? It's already gone. It's already out there. It's money already spent. So when you start to put the dollar to your time, it really becomes a lot easier to live that financially intentional life and to realize like, okay, this is my freedom, because again, time is something that we'll never get back. And we spend so much time at our employers, at least 40 hours a week typically. And, if not more for a lot of people. And that's 40 hours a week that we're not spending with our family, that we're not doing our passions, perhaps. I mean, hopefully you are, hopefully you're working somewhere that's, fulfilling you. But unfortunately, I know a lot of people aren't, and that's time that you're not going to get back. And so if you had the opportunity to take your time back, to choose to live how you want to live, then what's the downside of that? That's what financial independence can afford you. And I think that's a good segue to our question of the day, actually. So our question of the day today is, if money were no object, but you still had to work, what would you do? And I love this question because it really makes you think about, okay, if I didn't have to worry about a paycheck, if I didn't have to, worry about paying my bills and doing all the other things that people have to do, then what would I be doing? What passion would I be fulfilling? And so I think it's a fun thing to try to think about. And, even now, like I kind of think I know what I would do, but it's also like, well, that's only because I've only worked for money. I've never worked for passion. So even the thing I think today may not be the reality tomorrow. I mean, I have no idea. So I'm trying to think. So I know my husband said that if he had money were no object and whatnot, what he would do is probably something either with beer or with music or with both. And I definitely agree. That would be.
I mean, he could have a brewery and bring in live bands, and maybe that's his thing. That would be an awesome way to blend his passions. Morgan from Young Black Misses is here, and she commented on our Instagram post earlier when we talked about the question of the day. And Morgan, I think you were talking about you would do something with food. Naturally, you're such a foodie and such a great chef, so I think that's a perfect fit for you. I have to be honest. The thing I would do is actually what I'm doing right now. So I have a calligraphy side business. I love doing calligraphy. It's a passion of mine. I have since I was a little kid, I used to write on things. Stephanie can attest to it. I would literally write on every scrap piece of paper in the house. I was obsessed with my handwriting. I was obsessed with having good handwriting, and I just loved writing. Like to this day, I actually still take handwritten notes. I just enjoy writing. And so 3 years ago, I really decided to sit down and learn pointed pen calligraphy. I love doing it so much. I built a side business doing it. And it's not something that I would want to do. I wouldn't want to try to build a business where it's going to replace my full-time income, the income that I make from my 9-to-5 job, because that would be a lot of labor. It would have to be a lot of work, a lot of physical labor, because it is a physically intensive job. But if I didn't have to work for money was taken care of, but I still had to work, I would do calligraphy. I would also do what we're doing here with Winenance. I love coaching people and talking to people about how to achieve financial independence and financial freedom in their life. And this is something we do it for free now, so I would just continue doing it. I love doing it. And if I had my dream job, now I have to say, I'm not being self-deprecating here, but I just am not that great with math and science, especially with, any kind of complex calculations. Like I said last week, I know how to use a calculator, but I'm not very good with complex calculations. But if I could, I would be an astronaut. I would be an astronomer. I mean, it does bother me to know that I will probably die never having left this planet, never seeing this planet from space. I have to tell you, it's like finding out that you're never going to be able to look at your own face. You know what I mean? It's like one of those realizations, I'm never going to look at the planet from outside the planet.
Well, hey, if what's his name, Elon Musk keeps going the way he's going
Yes,
and
that's
commercializing space, then yeah, all you'll need is like a smooth 500,000, and you can, shuttle yourself up there.
I mean, maybe, Steph, maybe one day.
That's like
um,
Uber FI.
if you guys are joining in the live stream, leave us a comment and let us know, what would you do? What the question of the day is, what would you do if money were no object, but you still had to work? What would you do? Leave us a comment and let us know. We're going to go ahead and get back to the other reasons why we believe everyone should pursue financial independence and how it helps you live a more intentional life. So one of the biggest reasons, and just like security was Stephanie's number one, freedom is actually my number one. Freedom and choice and flexibility and options, all of that kind of goes into the freedom umbrella. And so financial independence really forces you to evaluate your life, what you truly want out of life. Stephanie's talked about that. And it allows you to choose your own path, right? So you don't necessarily have to go the way that society tells you have to go. And you don't have to go to the way that your college degree suggests that you should go. You can choose for yourself, and that choice is freedom. And I just don't think that there is really any more, at least for me, any more powerful reason to pursue financial independence than giving myself options and choice. I am somebody who believes that life is a buffet and I want to try everything. If you are familiar with the Enneagram personality test, I'm an Enneagram 7, which is the enthusiast, also known as the adventurous. It means we want to do all the things. And I love doing all the things. And some people talk about, oh, I don't know if I could ever retire because I don't know what I would do with all my time. Girl, I can't stop thinking of things I would do with my time. I mean,
Right?
the list goes on and on and on and
Yeah.
on. And I genuinely do feel sorry for people, because I know that those are people who actually would love to find like purpose and passion. And I don't say that to chide them. I just saying like, I am somebody who
I know exactly what you mean. Actually, one of my coworkers, he retired this year, even though technically he's still working. But when he announced that he was retiring, I asked him, I was like, okay, before you tell me you're retiring, what are you retiring to? And he listed off 5, 6, 7 things that he's like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and do that. Like it was legitimate things, not like, well, I'm gonna walk the dog and watch Netflix, and I guess I got some painting to do around the house. No, he had like legitimate stuff that he was gonna do. I was like, good. Like I had to approve his his retirement. Like I now bless you to retire. But that was the thing, is I've seen so many of my coworkers who are older and they're retiring at a typical retirement age. And then they end up retiring to nothing. And either they come back to the workforce, 6 months, a year later, or, unfortunately, they just kind of deteriorate. And I really don't want that for the people, that I really like and that are in my life. I want, people to have something that they're aiming for. And so again, like we've just been talking about the financial independence part, not the retirement or not the retire early. But again, that whole financial independence part of it gives you the freedom to choose what it is that you want to do. Figure out what your passion is. Figure out what that job or that activity is that you would do if money were no object. And then see if that's the opportunity you want to go for. See if that's what you want to actually do. If you're not in love with what you're currently doing and you now don't have to worry about getting that paycheck every week because you figured out a way to make your money make money, then that's the time for you to try those passions.
I love this topic so much. Like I could literally talk about pursuing personal passions all day long, again, because I am somebody who has multiple passions. And also my passions change from time to time. I used to really be into fashion. I had a fashion blog 10 plus years ago. That's why when I say I am a reformed shopaholic, I truly am. If you have a fashion blog,
Yes.
you will find every excuse in the world to go shopping and spend money on things that you don't need.
Your closet was ridiculous. It was
my closet was ridiculous. When we talk about spending intentionally, I will talk more about like my former life as a fashionista, and I still love to dress nicely. I will say as I've gotten older, like comfort is a little bit more important than, trends and things like that.
Join the dark side.
I know.
I know. A girl of comfort. I like fashion. I like makeup and stuff and hair, but I was always a girl of comfort.
I never thought a day would come where I didn't want to wear high heels. I've loved wearing high heels. And I threw out my back a few years ago playing with your child, by the way. But my back has never been quite the same. And standing in heels, I can do like a wedge heel, like a stacked heel or a wedge, but like standing in stilettos for like more than 10 minutes just kills my back. So
for the bird.
Anyways, this is so besides the topic. But actually talking about freedom goes into the next reason why we believe everybody should pursue financial independence, which is time ownership. You are owning your time. I like to quote Auntie Maxine with this one, Maxine Waters. I am reclaiming my time. With financial independence, you get to reclaim your time. Not only are you reclaiming your time, you are buying back your time from your current and potentially future employers. Think about that concept. When you are saving money, so much so that you don't have, that you can choose whether you're working, you are buying back that time from your employer. Because what we are all doing right now when we are employed by an employer, and this is not a bad thing, but when you are an employed person, you are trading your time for money. Tim Ferriss, who's the author of the 4-Hour Work Week, it's a very popular book in the financial independence community. And he talks a lot about this concept of trading time for money and time ownership. And so when you are financially independent, when all of your expenses are paid for the rest of your life, when you can live off of your investments, you have bought back your time from your employer, and there is no higher form of freedom than owning your own time. There's no higher form of resistance, quite frankly, of protest. I mean, it gives me goosebumps because I really do think about this on a social, like societal level. Like, just think how much happier Americans would be, if we all owned our own time and we could use that time to pursue our own passions, and we didn't have to worry about, basic things like healthcare and keeping a roof over our heads. So that's another reason why I have ulterior motives. I want to live in a utopia. I really do. I'm like a hippie at heart. I want to live in a utopia where everyone is happy and pursuing their passions and living blissfully. And we don't have to worry about paying for, healthcare and things like that. But until that time comes, yes, exactly, your basic needs. And until that time comes, and I don't know if it'll ever happen in my lifetime, but until it does, financial independence is the closest, the next best thing. So,
and actually something that they say is that people who have achieved financial independence actually can make some of the best workers and employees because they're working because they choose to. They want to be there. They're not just there to pull in their paycheck, each week or every other week or whatever, and clock in and clock out 9 to 5. They want to be there. They actually are enjoying the work they do, because otherwise they could just leave. They'd be like, oh, I'm done. Right. But instead they choose to be there. And so therefore they're more committed and can be more passionate about the work that they're doing, because they're not just working for the paycheck. They're working for the job, for the actual work that they're doing and producing. So, that's the thing, is that even employers should be glad if people want to get financial independence, because that means that the employees that they have there are the people who actually want to be there.
Yes. Completely agree. And even if you are planning to retire early, I still think people who are pursuing financial independence, or pursuing FIRE in this case, make very good employees, because those are people who also want to get out as quickly as possible. So they're going to try to climb the ranks. They're going to try to get those promotions. They're going to try to increase their income, right? And so you have to work harder and smarter and be a contributor to your workplace, to your employer, in order to get those things. So we could do another episode about that.
I know, really, there's so much to talk about this, and I know we don't want to make this too long for everyone, but that's the thing, is that there's so many benefits, and it's really unique to each person. You might love the job you have, and you're going to be one of those people who wants to stay there even once you've reached financial independence, or you might be dissatisfied where you currently are and know that there's another option out there for you, but unfortunately it just doesn't pay that much. That's what financial independence can afford you.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I am, big on, and I mentioned it earlier, was that financial independence can help you build generational wealth. Yes. And, for people who grew up financially insecure, for, minorities and people of color, the whole concept of generational wealth is, either non-existent or something far off in the distance. And I know certainly for our family, coming from slavery and what our great-great-grandfather did, and building wealth through farming and through owning businesses and owning land and teaching his children how to do that as well. That was so important to him. And, unfortunately, I have no idea. I know that we do still have relatives that own land down in Alabama, and our farmers. Yeah, exactly. But,
Well,
it's not like our whole family is just wealthy, landowners.
total sidebar, but we did a blog post a little bit about our family. It was right, right after the George Floyd murders and Black Lives Matter and the protests and everything. We did a blog post about that, and we talked a bit about our family history. But we do come from a family of farmers in Alabama, and actually, the New York Times did a profile on our family, the family farm that's still in existence today. We should actually post that to the Facebook page if you wanted to learn more about that. But I think about generational wealth. That is exactly what I think about when I think about generational wealth, at least in our family. And we are so blessed and privileged to know our family's history, because that is not something that especially most Black Americans, have that luxury of knowing their family's history, up to slavery. And the fact that, our family was able to create this generational wealth and to pay it forward to other free Black slaves. I get goosebumps and, quite frankly, get choked up, just thinking about the concept of it.
Exactly. And that's the thing that I constantly think in my mind is, granted, kind of like I was mentioning, is there, we still do have family who own farms and still own land down there, but a lot of it was sold off over the years. It's not like our family is just a huge family of landowners. The wealth kind of dissipated over the generations. But I hope that our generation and my son's generation, his kids' generation, can help build that up again. And by learning these concepts, by learning how to invest, by learning what even financial independence is, that's how you start it again. That's how you either started in the first place or start it over again. Because I'm certain that if the opportunities that were available today, that are available to us today, were available for our great-great-grandfather, there's no doubt in my mind that he would have been a person who achieved financial independence taught his children how to achieve financial independence and made their children teach their children. And, financial independence just would have been a thing that we do at this point.
Yeah.
I know for certain, and I know there's so many families out there who are like that, who's, first, either they're immigrants and their first family members who came over here, had that drive to just try to live and have a better life for their family. And, it's such a difficult thing. And a lot of opportunities were not available, in previous generations that are available to us now. And so it's kind of our responsibility to take advantage of these opportunities, to take advantage of the fact that as women, we can invest on our own and, with our own money, and don't have to have our husbands or our fathers sign off on things. That's a thing that even just a couple decades ago, or, a few more than a couple, but either way, that we would not have been able to do. We would have had to have our husbands okay to be able to even open a bank account or a credit card. So these are things that we are very fortunate to live in the era that we do. I mean, even despite its flaws at the time, and we know there are many flaws right now going on, but despite all that, there's been so much work that has been done throughout the past generations to get us to this point today. And it's our duty to take advantage of that the best that we can, to give honor to the people who have fought for these privileges for us, and to actually put them to use. And I think that's what trying to build generational wealth does. That's what trying to teach your children and your family members about it as well. Because it's not just you and your child, but you might have nieces and nephews. You might have, friends who have kids that, you love, like a niece or a nephew. You might have cousins, you have best friends across the street, whatever it might be. That's the thing, is that to share this knowledge and this information and help other people achieve it for their own family and their own friends and their own children and whatnot.
Yeah. Oops. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put a mortgage. Something else that I thought about when you were talking about generational wealth is that, so of course, creating generational wealth is, of course, like, money that you pass down, right? But it's also assets like a home. Generational wealth is also the ability to pay for your children or the children in your life or your loved ones, like to go to college. That is generational wealth. Like, we need to talk more specifically, like generational wealth is not just like an inheritance. It's also money that your family is able to provide, like that security that they're able to provide, that success that they're able to set you up with. But also something else that struck me, Steph, was that teaching your children about financial independence, about how to manage their money, about freedom, the financial freedom, not just like money management, Money management is something you do when you're trying to be paycheck to paycheck.
Mhm.
Wealth mindset, teaching your child a wealth mindset is an act of generational wealth, is an act of creating generational wealth, because then you are setting that child up for future success so that when they get that inheritance from you, whether it's property or money or whatever the case is, or a college degree that you're paying for, they know how to actually leverage that and continue building wealth upon that versus squandering it, And I think that's a lot of people, might be afraid, well, I don't really want to leave, something behind because I don't know if they're going to take advantage of it. Well, it's incumbent upon you to teach them how to take care of it, and we could talk about this, we've talked with this. I feel like we came up with like 5 new episode topics tonight, but
I know.
um,
I know, but that's the thing, is that even at a young age, you can teach your children about the concepts of investing, the concepts of saving money, and at age appropriate levels, you bring them up and you teach them more and more and more. So that way, it's just something that they've grown up learning. That's the thing, is we did not grow up learning this. This is all relatively new to us. In our lifetime, this
very
is new to us.
Yes.
But I don't want the same for my child. I want him to understand these concepts at an early age so that I can feel confident that when, I leave him money, I leave him, property, I leave him whatever assets I have, I can trust that he'll know what to do with them and how to continue that growth and not just squander them and not just sell everything and buy whatever and go, hang out on a yacht all day, which it would be awesome if we had yacht money, but even that, I just want yacht money. I'm not saying I'd have a yacht.
I was like, oh, that sounds like just such a waste, but I wouldn't mind going for a ride on a yacht. I wouldn't mind having a friend with a yacht. All right. Well, we want to get you guys out of here. I hear there's a debate tonight, so we want to get you guys out of here, but we do have our challenge of the week. So, all right. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull that up. All right, Steph, you want to walk us through this?
Yeah. So our challenge of the week, while we were talking about assets, it is to start tracking your net worth. And our tip is to use something like Mint or Personal Capital that basically does the work for you.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about using Mint and Personal Capital as a budget tracking tool, but these are also net worth tracking tools. And so if you link all of your accounts, if you link your mortgage plus your actual house, so how much your house is worth, if you were to sell your house today for, $500,000, but you owe $300,000 on it, that's still an asset of $200,000. So, that's the thing, is you want to include your assets plus your debts. So your bank accounts, your credit cards, your investment accounts, your house. Some people include cars, and if you own businesses or whatever, there's so many different ways to calculate your net worth. And definitely, if you can Google it, there's a number of net worth calculators. But personally, we like Mint and Personal Capital just because they do the work for you. They do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, and it'll help you figure out really where you are today. And maybe you're already calculating your net worth, and you say, oh yeah, well, I already do that, I know what I am. Then recalculate it now. When was the last time you checked it? Personally, I do my net worth every 3 months. And actually today is literally the day that I need to do it. I was busy today, so I didn't have a chance to, but you better believe first thing tomorrow, I'm going to calculate my net worth and update it on my lovely financial spreadsheet. And I track it. And I've seen over the years how much it's increased. And that's one of the benefits of it as well, is that it's such a motivator. Like, there might be periods of time, the market's down, whatever, that it might have gone down a little bit since the last time you calculated it. But if you do it consistently over time, hopefully you're going to see that little graph chart go up. And that's such a motivating factor to continue going forward. If I look at my net worth from 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, it's less than half of what it is today. My net worth has more than doubled in the past 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the crazy part, is that I'm not doing anything exceptionally special. I didn't, fall into a ton of money. My job didn't double the income. Yes, I've gotten raises over the year and whatnot, but it's not like I'm making so much more, compared to 3 years ago. I've been in the same job for, I've been a manager for 5 years, and I've been in software testing and test engineering for over 10 years. So it's not like I had to jump into a new industry even. It's all just how I've been using my money and how I've been spending it, and how I've also been saving it. So that's the thing, is that, to achieve a high net worth, it doesn't mean that you have to, again, we say this all the time, live on rice and beans.
Yeah.
It just means that you need to spend and save your money intentionally, figure out the right path to get there. learn about the concepts of financial independence and try to put them to use for yourself.
Yeah. I will also say with tracking your net worth, I mean, I love tracking my net worth, but also if you feel like if you don't know what your number is and you feel that you might have a negative net worth, especially if you have debt, maybe you're paying off student loans or credit cards or car or whatever have you, don't be afraid of a negative net worth because there is power in knowing your numbers. You have to face your numbers in order to get on the other side of that. If you stick your head in the sand and you just don't want to see it, well, all you're going to get is more of that negative net worth. But if you want to get from negative to positive and then or negative to zero and then zero to positive, you've got to start where you're at today. So you got to, don't stick your head in the sand. Go ahead. And like I said, I mean, I think it's phenomenal that you track it on a spreadsheet. I don't do that.
I'm a spreadsheet nerd.
I have a spreadsheet. I do have my budget spreadsheet, but I don't use it to track my net worth. I really love Personal Capital, and I'm not being paid to say that. I don't get any benefit from telling you. It's just a really great app. Mint also does a net worth tracking. I really personally prefer Personal Capital, but either way, it is so important to know your number. So that is our challenge of the week. And we are going to be checking in to see how you all are doing. And as we kind of close down for tonight, or wind down rather for tonight, I wanted to sort of reiterate the concepts that we went over. So the 4 reasons why we believe that everybody should pursue financial independence, and how it ties back to living intentionally is 1, the financial health and security. You never know when the unexpected is going to happen. Number 2 is freedom and choice. Financial independence gives you freedom and it gives you choices. Number 3 is time ownership. You are owning your time. You are buying back your time from your employers. And number 4 is that it creates and builds generational wealth that you can pass down. So that is our episode for this week.
I know. So excited. I think it was such a great topic. And I think it was a good intro into what our topic is for next week, which is how to spend with intention. And so we've talked a lot about it kind of high level today and why it's important to spend with intention, but we'll deep dive into it a little bit more next week and give you some tips and tricks on how you can do that. And, some of our more stories about home goods and not going buck wild in there.
I do love home goods. I still love home goods. But I flex that muscle. So when I go in there and I buy just what I need to buy. Exactly. And if there is something that I see that I didn't go in there to buy, I have to really evaluate, is this something I actually need or is this a want? And am I going to be over it in a matter of time? So
absolutely.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in again tonight. Thank you for all of you who are on the live stream. Love that you guys joined in. And remember, Winenance Wednesday as a live stream show every Wednesday here on YouTube and Facebook. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe so other people can see our great content. Also, we come in podcast form now. So if you prefer to listen to us, hello out there in podcast land. We are available on all the major podcast networks.
Yep. And don't forget to sign up for our workshop. It's at winancefi.com, and it's on October 22nd at 7 p.m. for our Build Wealth Through Your 401k. So hopefully we'll see everyone there.
Thanks so much for joining, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Yep. See everyone. Turn off my banner. Too much. We're working on the production portion of it.
That's right.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.